Now back to Forever a Canuck. Proudly sponsored by PlayNow.com. Find your game.
At what point did you kind of go, I'm going to play in the NHL? It must have happened to you at some point in junior, right?
You know, after my 16-year-old year, like I said, I had a really slow start. The second half of the season, I started to play well and had a really good playoff. I was actually in the Memorial Cup final game. I'd scored a couple goals, and Russ Farwell came to, I sat down with Russ after the year and said, Trev, you're going to be a high draft pick next year, and you're going to have a lot of agents come to your house this summer. And I was like, really? Wow. That was kind of the first time I really kind of thought, okay, this could happen.
What was that like? To hear that from a guy as respected as Farwell, who you knew was entrenched in the game, who you knew was connected, who was running a very successful major junior team. It was like, he knows what he's talking about. I'm going to be an NHLer.
Yeah, and I trusted him. He was a real mentor for me. And, it was kind of like that light bulb moment. It was like, wow. Having said that, I mean, by no means I take anything for granted. I went into my second full season with Medicine Hat knowing that, the pre-draft lists are out and a lot of pressure. There's a kid playing up in Prince Albert by the name of Mike Modano that, was also rated highly. And
did you feel that pressure? Did it impact you?
Yeah, I think you feel because
scrutiny.
You're reading the hockey news, you're listening to what people are saying about you, and it's the first time in your life where you pick up the hockey news and they're talking about draft eligible players and they're talking about you and what you do and what you don't do well and what you do well and where you could be one day, and you're kind of like, oh wow, and I will never forget Elliot Papp came out from the Vancouver Sun, midway through the year to talk to me because Vancouver was, trending to the bottom of the standings, and so that
it wouldn't be the last time Elliot Papp trailed
exactly.
you, right?
That was the start of a long relationship. So then you start getting the team. Then you start looking at the NHL standings. Like, okay, well, probably go in the top 5. Who's picking in the top 5? And so, but I have to say, even when I was drafted in Montreal, it was a great honor, but I said this publicly, but I really believe that getting drafted is just a number, and really, to me, it didn't mean anything because my goal is to play in the National League, and it wasn't to be drafted. That was great, but I knew that I had a lot of work to get to the next level. So Russ certainly put the light bulb on for me, but I never took my foot off the gas, I guess. And even when I was drafted, I knew that there was a lot of work to do, and to be successful it's not about what number you were picked, it's about what you do after you were drafted.
There's a great story about Berkey wanting to do a pre-draft interview with you before the Canucks drafted you, right?
Yes.
You weren't available though.
Yes, I was not. And he, if you hear Berkey's story, today it's gotten even better from the actual story.
No, not Berkey.
Berkey's a great storyteller, but it was June of '88, and the Memorial Cup had wound up kind of May long weekend kind of thing, and it was probably the first weekend in June, and of course Vancouver was picking second, and Minnesota's first, Vancouver second, Quebec third, Winnipeg fourth, Quebec fifth. So 4 Canadian teams in the top 5. Interesting. And so
you were fully aware of that. Where your address could be, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Could be on this side of the border.
Oh yeah, because when you think about, and I was pretty much locked into 2, right? Most kids, they go to the draft and you're rated 17th or 20th. I mean, you could go 10th or 30th, right? You've got a large. I kind of knew it was going to be either Minnesota, Vancouver. I didn't think I'd fall to 3, and I didn't think Minnesota would pick me. Anyway, so Berkey gets a hold of my agent Don Meehan and says, we'd like to have Trev out for, to meet the organization. We want to talk to him and, get to know him a little bit, and we'd like to have him out on the, June 7th weekend. And so Donnie gets he says, yeah, no problem, we'll have him there. And, so I get in, Berkey gets in touch with me, and I said, I had to explain to him that weekend really doesn't work for me. I'm sorry. My family you know, the ranch, we do a big branding that weekend, and I'm kind of in charge of my brothers and I and my cousins. We kind of get the, you know, we grab the calves and drag them out and hold them down, and my uncle brands and my grandpa vaccinates, and you know, so I said I'm kind of locked in, and he loved it. He said, "Oh my God, you go do what you got to do. We'll do it the next weekend." So, I think that's maybe the only time that Berkey had ever been told that a prospect couldn't come and meet the organization because he was branding cattle. But
did you feel like there was any option? Like, this is a National Hockey League team. They wanted to bring you in, talk to you, maybe make you the second pick overall.
Yeah.
And the branding couldn't wait, or you couldn't find someone else. Were you that committed to your chores and your duties and the expectations of your family?
Well, I was committed. I mean, that was a big weekend. I mean, it's always, and you know, we do have the boys had a significant job, and it was one that I enjoyed doing. It was kind of
branding and bonding.
The branding and bonding, yeah. So, it was, looking back, it's kind of strange, right? You know. I don't think that'd be happening today. So, but different times.
Next week, part 2, Forever a Canuck with Trevor Linden.
We're all kind of shocked. Hold on, that's Pavel Bure? I mean, he was a little guy, and they're like, are you guys kidding me right now? Boy, I tell you, we were all believers after Game 1 against Winnipeg.
This has been a Canucks TV presentation. Proudly sponsored by PlayNow.com. Find your game.